Hello. Today I would like to talk to you about our Public Works facility, the brand new one on Allenson Road, and the story behind it. Now, the story behind the facility is intertwined with the story of our emerging downtown because our old Public Works land is very close to the train station and is very developable and very desirable. So we begin in 2004, and at the time, much of the talk in the community was about the need for a new downtown, for the downtown to be revitalized. At the time, there was a lot of industrial pieces of land throughout, including a lumberyard, a 10-acre packaging factory right in the middle of town on Hawley Street, a recycling facility, and a 150,000 square foot industrial building that was kind of failing at the time. And so the Board of Trustees and the Mayor commissioned a study, a transit-oriented development study, just to examine whether or not our downtown could be reimagined. And so I'm showing you a slide here that shows a rendering of a general concept. And what they did is they went to a completely vacant canvas, a blank canvas to try and imagine a new downtown. And as you'll see here, at the time they imagined a green belt right in the middle there on Division Street, running from west on the left to east on the right, going to the train station. And you could see a diagonal gray line there, and there's the train station. And so they really were trying to be very innovative and think outside the box. Now on this, you can also see here now where the Public Works facility is, just to give you some reference point, with Crystal Street bordering it on the south. And you can see how close that Public Works facility is to our train station, where that green belt ends there on the right. And so you can see that even back then in 2004, we were thinking about moving the Public Works facility. And finally, here's another rendering showing you the green belt. Here we're hovering over the train station looking to the west. And what you'll notice here is that there's some very tall buildings. And one of the aspects of a transit-oriented development is to increase the density of people that live there. And why is that? So that you can have people living in a downtown that are able to walk and support the shops and stores and restaurants right there. This is a tried and true method of revitalizing a downtown. It's been done all over the country, but you need a train station, public transportation to pull it off. And so that's what the board did in 2004. And so let's go to the timeline. The timeline beginning back then, walking you through the phases to get to the point where we are, where we created a whole new Public Works facility, a very large one. 2004, you can see here the transit-oriented development study was done. This is available online, even at the village website. You can see for yourself and look at all the very interesting concepts that they had back then. And so the board bought into this, and immediately in 2005, a TIF district was formed right in the middle of downtown. And you can see here the map of the TIF district. Now, TIF means tax increment financing. It's a way of helping to incentivize developers to come into an area that needs redevelopment, and it incentivizes them with some greater returns so that they would be motivated to come here. The letter M stands for the Metra. You can see where the train station is right there. And in 2005, the village purchased that 150,000 foot industrial building, the Anatol building right there. And this is what it looks like if you drive by it today on your way to the train station. It's very familiar. Today, well, at the time we were thinking of having it be part of being a village hall perhaps, but that was later scrapped in favor of another plan that you'll see in a second. But this building now is pretty much all full, and we have the largest law firm in Lake County in that very building, and really nice office space. In 2007, the first of the residential buildings went in. Remember, we were talking about higher density. Cardinal Square, the first building went in, and you can see a picture of it here. It's very familiar to you, just right on the east side of the railroad tracks. And I want to show you a rendering of the whole project. Here's a picture of the artist's conception of Cardinal Square, the whole project. And you can see this building here right in front, but look at all the other buildings going to the south. Right now we're north looking south. Look at all those other buildings. This is the density that we're talking about. All right, and here's a map of the Cardinal Square project. The first building here is in red, but look at these other buildings. There are there's let's see, a total of 9 buildings planned, room for 8 more besides this one. Just to give you a picture of the scope, and this is going south all the way almost to, to Fairhaven School, I think is how far down south it goes. So that was a big deal to get that first Cardinal Square project off the ground. Now, what happened after 2007? Do you remember? Well, it was the recession. The recession happened and real estate prices plummeted, and the Cardinal Square project to get 9 buildings up came to a screeching halt because the market for condominium buildings went flat. Real estate prices began to plummet, and you could see some years there where nothing happened. Prices came down so far that in 2010, we were able to afford the purchase of the 10-acre packaging factory right in the middle of town. And so in that sense, the recession was kind of a blessing to the village that we could afford to buy this 10-acre site right in the middle of our downtown here. So we purchased that site to be reimagined in terms of streets and everything. The factory was demolished, everything came down, and the whole, our new village hall eventually went in 2014. Here's the 10-acre packaging site. Take a look at this piece of land. You could recognize the village plaza right there, the little oval. You can see the village hall, and just look at, outlined in red, that whole 10-acre site. That was the packaging factory, to give you a picture as to how large this was. So that was a huge purchase for us. In 2013, here we go, we come to the land for public works facility. And so with this recession, there were a lot of real estate development projects, residential, that were beginning to kind of fail. And this was a developer that abandoned this project, land off of Allenson Road, I want to say 17 acres or so, and we ended up purchasing it for a very, very good price. And you could see the size of this off of Allenson Road. Here we're looking kind of towards the we're looking towards the northwest, I guess, as you can see up at the top of the screen. But a sizable piece of land right off Allenson, and we just bought it to hold it with a mind for building our public works facility in the future. Okay, we move to the next year, 2015. Cardinal Square building number 2 goes in. And so that was, look at that though, that's roughly 8 years from one building to the next. And you know what? If you'd had asked the Cardinal Square developers back in 2007 what they would have thought had happened in the next 8 years, they would have told you that all 9 buildings would have been up by then. But the recession did set us back quite a bit. And so Cardinal Square number 2 went in 15 and 2016. Oh, here's another map, of the Cardinal Square development. This is the building number 2, and there's room for, you could see 7 more buildings to go in there and increase the density to our downtown like we've been talking about. In 2016, we created another TIF district, TIF district number 2 on the west side of the tracks. We kind of had to split the first one a little bit and separate them. TIF number 1 is on the east side of the tracks. So that took us a while, and we were happy we did that. That incentivizes the developers to keep coming in and looking at projects in the area. And then what else happened to set us back? 2017, the July flood, July 12th, I believe. Look at that picture. Remember that? That was just devastating for us at the time to realize that we had a huge problem right in the middle of our town. And so we set about immediately to do a study to figure out why this water built up here and what we needed to do to fix the problem. You just can't have a thriving town when you have the threat of floodwaters like this going on with a 100-year event, which seems to come a little more often than every 100 years, it seems, right? And so we immediately set about doing a study to figure this out. Now, this plays a huge role coming down the pike, as you're going to see, in terms of getting out of our public works facility. So I bring this up to you just as part of the timeline that's very important. 2018, we ended up purchasing a building right next door to that public works land that we bought a few years prior. All right, and this was huge because the Natus building, formerly the Biologic building, for those of you going way back like me, you remember that on Allenson, and so we purchased that building and we made that part of our new public works facility. And we just decided to add on to that building, as you'll see in the plans, and it saved us at least $1.5 to $2 million in construction costs by buying an existing building. So that was just great fortune that we encountered this opportunity and took advantage of it. Oh, here's a picture of the Biologic building, just showing you that. 2019, we break ground on the new public works facility. It was a great moment. A lot of work had gone into this and the planning and everything. And so we're very happy that it's 2020 and now Public Works is moving into that building now. Let me show you this picture of the Public Works facility. So there's the land at the top with the office. And underneath you can see an artist's rendering of the whole campus. All right? And I'm going to show you later an aerial shot of the campus as it's finished. But in 2020, we began the flood work. The flood work began to solve the problem of the flooding in town. It took us roughly 3 years to get there, to come up with the engineering plans to solve the problem and the financing mechanism to pay for the bonds to make this happen. But we did it. Flood work began. That's yours truly standing next to the 72-inch pipes that were buried underground to take that water. And where is the water going to go? Well, let me show you. Here's a map of our downtown. And go on the left side if you could. That's on the west side of town, west of Highway 45. Look at all the blue area. That's where the water gathers. And earlier, when it was trying to make its way east, underneath Highway 45 into that state storm sewer, it was getting stopped right there. The state storm sewer was too small to handle all that water, and that's what caused the flooding. So what we're doing is basically creating, we're putting in bigger pipes there on the west side of 45, and we went underneath 45, bypassing the state route to bring the water where? Go down to the bottom right. You see where it says Guitar Factory? That's the old guitar factory, the old Washburn Guitar Factory on Cortland. All right, here's what happened. We have the Public Works facility that we've now vacated. You can see that in the gold. Well, the company that owned the guitar factory wanted the Public Works facility to develop. And you know what? We wanted the guitar factory to tear it down and build a detention pond for all the water that needs to come over on the west side to the east side. So it just worked out great. We put in those big fat 72-inch storm sewer pipes. We exchanged land. We gave them our Public Works facility. We took the guitar factory, we tore it down, and now we are digging a big giant 8-acre hole to be the detention pond and also a regional butterfly sanctuary as well. And that project is going on right now. You can drive by and see the massive work that is being done there. And so we have now vacated the Public Works facility so that the developer can get going on his plans for that spot. And it just worked out really well. The timing was impeccable here. Here's an aerial of the completed Public Works facility. And this is a drone shot looking at the front door right at the foreground, going all the way back, looking at all the buildings, the storage buildings, the vehicle maintenance building. It's just a fantastic site. Now, finally, how did we pay for all this? How do we pay for all this? This project is roughly $23 million. Okay, here's what we did. We exercised patience and very conservative fiscal practices because of that patience. We waited from 2004 all the way to 2019, about 15 years, for us to execute on getting our public works facility out of downtown. And by doing that, what we did is we allowed some bonds to come off the books so that we could reissue those bonds at the appropriate time. So here you see the bond payment that's embedded in our property taxes. It's labeled on our property taxes, Village of Mundelein. Okay, there's two related to the village, Village of Mundelein and then the Village of Mundelein pensions. Okay, within the Village of Mundelein amount, we include, there's several items, but one of those is our bond payment every year, which in this case is $975,000. So we issued those new bonds, but yet we kept the bond payment the same. So we were able to finance all of this without any adverse or increase in property taxes due to this project. All right, and that's because we simply exercised patience and had some good timing work our way. And so we're very pleased with that. You can see the new bonds were issued back last year in 2019, and yet the bond payment is the same related to our property taxes. So we're very pleased with that. I want to thank you for joining me. At this point, you should go look at another video that we're doing on a virtual tour of the Public Works facility. I hope this has given you some good background and you learned something here today. Thank you very much for taking the time. Take care.